Okay, everyone, we are live at Chicago Vascular, and we have our Making the Impossible Possible Save My Piggies conference, and it's going to be a really cool, very informative next couple of hours, for you. We have a lot of great presentations. So we have Dr. John here, actually live in person together, I think, for the first time. This is really cool.
It is cool. It is cool. And you don't say piggies, right? It's your life, your living, your story. We love hearing from our patients. We love empowering our patients and learning from them. So I'm super stoked. Glad we've got a great audience, and we're going to learn. We've already been sharing quite a bit too. So this has been a lot of fun for me.
We did. So we want to together just introduce our very first speaker to open things up. He's just a really special human on this planet. And for the last event that we had here in our very first event, actually, we had here in Chicago a couple of years ago, Dr. Chopra was the hit of the entire conference and backed by popular demand. You got to hear this very special human on this planet speak as an interventional radiologist, but he takes a holistic and spiritual approach to your health. Please welcome Dr. Romi Chopra.
Thank you. Welcome. Thank you, my friend. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much indeed. Oh, how can I live up to that, right? It's awesome. So first is I'm a humanist at heart. So anybody know anybody who's lived forever? Yeah. Okay, and all of you folks of faith, I'm sure. The Son, the Father, the Holy Spirit. The body, the mind, and the spirit. There's certain laws of nature of the human existence that supersede everything. So each one of you is a patient, and you have a diagnosis. But what you're really chasing is you want a healthy life. But what is it you want in life? That is part of the human existence first. So there are laws of nature like gravity work all day. One of the things I heard in the conversation we were having before, and I want this to be a conversation between us more than just me talking to you, is you were feeling hurt. Somebody ignored and they were just doing what they wanted to do. The paradigm was different. It was the big hospital, the big stuff. You had mentioned something about what you can do with your own life. So what is it that humans want? What does any living creature want? Live as long as possible and have the best quality of life. So if you're a shark or a dolphin, and I put you in a golden cage in Lake Michigan, how happy are you going to be? So what is success? Fulfilling your God-given potential, whatever it is. All of you see basketball, seen LeBron dunk a ball? Do you think you can do an angiogram that I do? And if you think white man can jump, brown man can jump. So basketball's out of my game. And we all have gifts. So you take a genius and put him in the bad situation, he's a moron. So everybody's a genius at something. Everybody's a moron at something. So I'm going to change this paradigm a little bit. People come to me and they come to me with, I think I have this. And I tell them, are you a doctor? They go, oh, no. Tell me how you feel. And one of the laws of nature, we as humans feel before we think. Think about it for a second. Now, I speak all around the world on things like this. I want you to close your eyes for 1 second. I want you to tap your right foot. Now imagine it's not there. How did that affect your life? Now, some of you, because of the PAD diagnosis, have had that. Now, the second thing I want you to do is you tapped your foot. That was physical. The second part of it is you're thinking, right? You're processing certain thoughts. You can close your eyes and watch yourself think. Who's that person watching you think? That's your spirit. That's the real you. And that's where our feelings lie. You watch the picture of anybody who's canonized, any saint, what do they show? A halo around them. Halo of what? Light. That's why we call it enlightenment. When you take a breath in, what's your only connection with the universe? Breath. So when you take a breath, what is it called? Inspiration. What does the word inspiration mean? into your spirit. So joy and happiness are two different things. Joy is a state of being. That's state of being. If you have something, you're joyful. You don't have something, you're joyful. Happiness is conditional. If I have this, I'm happy. If I don't have this, I'm unhappy. When you get what you want, now you go to the next better thing. So one of the first things I tell my patients and everybody else is you got to connect at the spiritual level. And that's what we call energy. Most of you, with whatever diagnosis you had, the path that you had, you felt betrayed because they didn't realize what you were feeling. They rattled off stuff to you that they read in a book somewhere. They were like, as if they're dealing with a car and I'm going to change the tire, I'm going to do this. People ask me, what do you do? And I say, I'm in the business to take care of people. They don't know, what do you really? I'm a doctor. What kind of doctor are you? My favorite line. Exactly. Same thing. So that's your feeling. Now, people do lose body parts. There's cancer. I have a friend of mine who's literally worth 900 million, much money. We've got only a year to live. Now what? So the reason I say this is you've got to put what we deal in the human perspective and then come up to finding solutions to these problems. So this is something that I live with on a day-to-day basis. And I encourage my patients, anybody that I can influence, because we as physicians are in the business of influencing people and behavior. And you know the secret here? As a physician, especially, I know this, is no physician ever in the history of mankind has healed anything ever. The body heals itself. You have an infection, I give you an antibiotic, you take it. I'm not healing it. I'm just the catalyst that gave it to you. You cut yourself, I stitch it, your body has to heal it. People read the Bible? Corinthians 3:16. Your body is not your body, it's God's temple. Therefore, you don't desecrate it. All of you have a car? You put kerosene in it? What do you put? Unleaded gas, the most expensive. What about the kerosene we put on our bodies? Right? If you had $1 million horse, we just let it sit around all day, do nothing. The horse says, I don't feel like walking today. It's $1 million horse. Get up, move. Your body is your spirit's horse. Your mind is the reins for the chariot. Your spirit is running that chariot. Now, do me a favor. Smile. Just smile. Just smile. Smile. Please smile. I want to see a smile on your face. Can you be unhappy while you're smiling? Right? Smile. See, look at you. Your face lit up. Energy came up. My point is, joy and wellness are not the absence of problem. They are the presence of solutions. I just saw a little baby a while ago, right? So life's a journey. So I always joke, life's a sexually transmitted terminal condition. Think about it. Now, who are patients? All of us. Did you get prenatal care? Your baby needed prenatal care. How many of you think you can bury yourself? You need postmortem care. So we are all patients. You know what I heard everybody complaining about? That the big hospital, the high technology, the fancy stuff, were doing it for themselves. We are the best hospital with this. It wasn't patient-centered. So I believe in this adage. You may be one person in the world, but you could be the world to somebody. That's what I strive to be. That's what our organization strives to be. See, that's one of the biggest things that we. So if somebody is depressed, that depression is actually a spiritual condition. But we try to then take pills and do this, try to fix with some magical pill. Does that make sense to you so far where I'm trying to get with this? So if you have a problem, what do you think you're going to look for? the solution. Now, we as humans are designed to move. If not, we would have roots, not feet. And when we move, when we walk, we feel better. We are based of different chemicals. So how many of you really get up and move every day? I heard somebody say, listen, sometimes I just can't get up and go to the bathroom. So what it is within your paradigm, did you shut the mic? Within your paradigm, you can do is your best. So some days it's getting out of bed or walking to the bathroom. Someday you're maybe running a marathon. Fair enough? So in that paradigm, now, if you have a car, you have a problem with your tire, it affects your whole system. Now, if you go to Midas, what are you going to get? A muffler. So part of the problem is raising awareness, and this is what I really, really want you to get a grasp on. You must chase health, wellness, and not a diagnosis. Okay? Now, if you have a house, it's a 100-year-old house, what do you think is happening to the pipes? They're rusting. They're the laws of nature. Hair turns gray, you'll do something, but you will check out one day. Life's a one-way street. There's an exit waiting for you, but your responsibility is to do the best you can to live to the max of your potential. So when we were talking about get up and walk for PAD, blah, 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 that is you living to your potential. We're not telling you, I don't tell my patients, you got to walk. Now, smoking. Why do people smoke? You smoke for a while? Why did you smoke? It made you feel better. Now the question is, it was unnatural and it had other side effects. So therefore, you see what you said, you needed endorphins. So what's a better way to get endorphins in your brain? Move, workout. That's one way to look at it. When I say holistic, it is not about some hokey pokey, some mantra, some stuff. It is about encompassing everything that is available to you as a human being. All the resources for what purpose? So you can lead your best life. Fair enough? So within that paradigm, there are so many things you can do. The first is, okay, you won't put kerosene in your car, but how many of you eat burgers and fast food and all that stuff that's not good for you? Not anymore, but let's see. You start with that. So here, what I want you to do is from your spirit. I want you to close your eyes, and that's where you meditate. When I say meditate, it's not something magic. Just let your thoughts come in, and then you visualize that you are extremely healthy and the best you can be. Now you're going to get up and start one step at a time. Work your way towards those solutions. Fair enough? Now, the word responsibility, what does that mean? The ability to respond. What is the real pandemic that the US has and the world has right now? Obesity and actually diabetes. We live in the richest country in the world. $24 trillion economy. We spend 4 trillion, which is more than Germany's GDP, including everything, on healthcare alone. We're still not healthy. Why? Because everybody is chasing that dollar, profit, marketing, and then you get Kellogg's cereal. That sugar, do you know how bad it is for you? But why is that still being marketed as the best thing for kids? Smoking, beer. In the end, we are programmed as humans for survival. And therefore, you want to do anything and everything you can for your survival. And survival is the minimum at 4 levels. Anybody heard of Dr. Stephen Covey, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People? He was a Mormon priest. He wrote the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. There's the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. He condensed it into 4. To live, to love, to learn, and to leave a legacy. How many of you have met Rockefeller? Know the name? JP Morgan. Who are all these people? They're dead, they're gone. But we as humans have this desire to live forever. We may not physically be present, but we leave our impact. That's the legacy. Okay? Live. Now, I got your attention. You're interested in what I'm saying. This room filled up in smoke. How many of you are going to sit here? You'll be out of the door. Why? Because primal at the very core is survival, physical survival. Live. Any country music fans? Lots of them. What are the most songs about country music about? He left me, she left me. She took my pickup truck. She took my pickup truck, the dog. When she was here, I beat the crap out of her, and I was sitting in the bar with my friends. What is that problem about? Love. And love is not just sex. Love is the basic human need to be cared for. One of the things I heard you all complain about, nobody gave a crap about me because they were self-centered, not deliberately, but that's how the program was. You wanted them to care about you. Have you ever met anybody who's unkind and be caring? So kindness is the core human value. Most of you in Christianity, Judeo-Christian faith, I always tell WWJD, what would Jesus do? And I had some Muslim, I'm a humanist at heart, so I transcend all of these because the human body, blood type, A, AB, 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 and O. There's no Hindu blood, Christian blood, Muslim blood. So when the patient's on the table, it's the human, right? So when you start coming back into that paradigm, kindness, caring. If somebody cares, I am so honored and so flattered that some of you drove far away and wanted me back. That means I did something to influence your consciousness, and you trusted me in what I'm saying. If you trust your doctor, so don't trust somebody who's unkind and doesn't care. If you're not caring, if you don't care, you shouldn't be in healthcare. Unfortunately, that's the problem in the paradigm that we live. Okay, so live, love means I'm cared for. Learn. What is learn? That's intellectual survival. So, first is you don't have enough money, you don't have enough stuff to live, you build a house, you got a car, you got everything else. You're loved, people care for you, everything's good. Then what do? You start sniffing wine, and it's from here, it's from there, and you start playing these intellectual games. Now, people ask me this all the time about artificial intelligence. Say, are you really worried about artificial intelligence will take over? No. You know why not? Because there's nothing called artificial wisdom. The wisdom is the why. That's why we go to the scriptures. Whichever faith you're born in. So remember, we used to walk everywhere as human beings. Then we got wheel, locomotion. Now we can take a jet and fly all over. AI, artificial intelligence, we're going to do that for our thinking, for our mind, but not for our spirit. So my main message to you is you got to think at the spiritual level. Chase health, fitness, wellness. You have the responsibility. Now you can delegate the blame, but never the responsibility. Learned that from Nixon. You can delegate the blame, but you're still responsible. So who's responsible for your body? You are. That's why you are here. You are responsible individuals. You've taken the responsibility, means you have the ability to respond to the problem that you got. But now you got to stop blaming others. If there's somebody who's not solving your problem, find the next person and start finding the solution for you to do what? Live as long as possible and live the best life you can. What's your best life? You take a fish and ask it to climb a tree. Do you think it's successful? It's fail all day long. Listen to your inner voice and then start looking at, hey, am I doing the right thing? Too much alcohol problem, too much sugar problem. I need to move. I need to start walking. I can blame everybody else for anything, but I've got to take that responsibility. Now I have the gift of gab, so I can talk all day long. So the question I have for you is, any questions for me? Anything that I could address as well? Does this make sense to you? My point here is you'll be facing this. PAD is a chronic condition, which means it'll never be cured. It's not going away. Just like I said, life's a terminal condition, right? So we know we're going to die one day. But what's the journey going to be like? You know, when I talk to high school kids and others, I tell them it's like getting on a flight. You ever know where you're not going to land? You get on an elevator not knowing which floor you're getting off on? And in the end, what you really want to do is say, God's given me this gift, this human body, this mind to think, and my spirit's right there guiding this. What am I going to do about it? You have a problem, a diagnosis, PAD, but all the things that you can do, such as the walking. I heard a lady earlier say something about some days I just don't have the energy. You know what that is? Do your best, whatever that is. Now, I'm going to give you a couple of quick pointers. Number one, sleep is a superpower. All of you sleeping at least 8 hours? Oh. So that's number one. That's when your body heals. I'm not joking. And as a doc, I used to be so proud that I only slept 4 hours a day, a night, whatever. And I was like, oh, I don't need more sleep. But then I realized blood pressure went up, all the other problems went up. And how often do you take your car for servicing? Every 2,000 miles. How often do most people service their bodies? Most people never. Not even twice a year. So my point is, you've got to take that responsibility and start working your way toward that kind of goal of being the best you can be. And you start working from that level. Sleep is one. Second is motion. You know, when people get anxious, what do? They walk. They start feeling better. Those at the end. The secret is, now see, earlier you had no choice. You want to water, you had to walk. You needed food, you had to walk. Now we got cars, we got stuff. Now even worse, we got Uber Eats. Let's see, one more minute up here. You can do blah, blah, blah. So now we have to build it into our lives, what I call fit for life. Anybody guess how old I am roughly? What do you think? Anybody else? Oh, yeah. I love her already. I'm sorry, I'm going to fight you after. We'll fight, bye. I love you not as much as her, but I'm turning 63 this year. Wow, you look good, man. God bless you. Yoga every day. Don't put kerosene in me. Sleep. No, they're AIDS. Do I enjoy some alcohol? Absolutely. Do I enjoy good food? Yes. Excess is a problem. We live in a place of abundance. You have to ask yourself, why did I get PAD in the first place? Take responsibility. There are a lot of people to help you. God bless this woman. She's a powerhouse of energy. But remember, you can delegate the blame, but not the responsibility. Next time I see you, each one of you have lost 20 pounds. You can take some aids, take some metformin, get some Ozempic. You're responsible. We'll open the pipes for you. Yeah, you know, I tell them a human plumber. I joke about that all the time. Ask me what kind of doctor is a good one. That's another joke. So I'll leave you with that. All of you know where to find me. But can I say one quick joke on that? So there's this guy comes into the house. There's a plumber. They told the big problem. He did it. Says $1,000. What? He said, you did it so fast. He goes, geez, what do you think? A neurosurgeon? He said, no, I used to be one. Now.
Thank you so much. Big round of applause for Dr. Romi Chopra. And you can see by popping this. So thank you seriously from the bottom of my heart for all you do to seriously not only inspire us, but to also keep all of our limbs attached. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Cheers. We'll see you soon.
So next up, I want to introduce, I would say he's not just a friend, he's family. I want to introduce a good friend of mine, Derek. He is here to just share an important message for all of you. So come on up here. The importance of getting a second opinion. Yeah. And make sure you hold that toe guard up. Yeah. So you're gonna have to stand over here.
Right. First of all, how's everybody doing? My wife wrote a first of all, I was freaking out when I seen it. Everybody started talking. I don't know why it's been like that since I was a kid, but anyway. So on this, good afternoon. to all my friends here at the Global PAD community. I stand before you today with a heart full of gratitude, a story of resilience, and a message of hope. For 7 years now, I've been facing the daunting, life-altering possibility of the amputation of my leg or leg. The future seemed uncertain, and fear was a constant companion. But today I'm here to tell you that I'm standing quite literally on my own 2 feet because of the unwavering support and groundbreaking work of this incredible community. For those of you who may not know, of course I'm sure everybody does, peripheral artery disease, PAD, and critical limb ischemia are battles that many of us are fighting and fight daily. These conditions can be relentless, stealing our mobility, our independence, and often our hope. But in the face of such challenges, there are heroes among us, people who refuse to let PAD dictate the terms of our lives. These heroes are the PAD warriors, you guys. Okay, I just lost it. The CLI fighters and the Global PAD Association, who work tirelessly to restore not just blood flow to our limbs, but also to bring hope back to our hearts. My darkest moments, when the prospects of losing my legs felt inevitable, it was the collective strength and expertise of this community that helped to save me. The doctors who refused to give up, the advocates who fought for my care, and the fellow patients who shared their stories of survival, all of them played a vital role in my journey. Through innovative treatments and the determined effort to restore blood flow to my feet, I was given a second chance. And there's one person in particular who has been a beacon of light for so many of us, Kim McNicholas. Kim's tireless dedication to helping PAD patients live full, healthy lives has been nothing short of extraordinary. For real. Well, thank you, big time. She has been a champion for those of us who have felt voiceless, a warrior in the fight for better care, and relentless advocate for hope. Her work with PAD warriors and the Global PAD Association has transformed the landscape of care, giving countless individuals like myself the chance to reclaim our lives. Kim, your years of dedication have not only saved my legs, but have also inspired me to live with renewed purpose. You have shown us all that our futures are full of promise and that we are not defined by our conditions, and that with the right support, we can overcome even the most daunting obstacles. To my fellow PAD patients, I say this: you're not alone. The road may be difficult, but we are a part of a community that is strong, compassionate, and determined. Together, we can face whatever challenges come our way, and together, we can continue to fight for better treatments, better care, and better lives. And for the doctors and the medical professionals, thank you. Your dedication to your patients, your commitment to innovation, and your refusal to accept defeat are the reasons so many of us can stand here today. You are the healers, the fighters, and the hope bringers in this journey. And to the Global PAD Association and every single person involved in this fight, thank you for giving us our lives back. Thank you for believing that every leg, every limb, every person is worth saving. In closing, let us all remember that no battle is fought alone. We are stronger together, and with the continued efforts of this remarkable community, there is no limit to what we can achieve. The future is bright, full of hope, and full of life. Thank you. Thank you, Kim. I appreciate it. Now you are.
Were the first in that we were really doing it, you know, from the very beginning. We've been at this for with me 5 years. You've been at it for 7 years, but I think it's even at least 5 years. The Global PAD Association is 5 years old as of September 4th, and we've been there from the very beginning. And so, thank you for trusting me in fighting alongside you. Seriously, from the bottom.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
And I'll take the
Nice.
Okay, so we have another heartfelt story. I want to bring up Alan because I want to continue to drive home the importance of getting a second opinion. I think that that's really important. And one of the topics that we're going to get into is it's not just important to get your legs checked and to get a second opinion before any procedure with your legs, but it's also really important to do the same with your heart. And we're going to be learning in the next hour after we introduce you to Alan and his Dr. Elsayed. We're going to teach you what you need to know to advocate not just for your legs, but also for your heart. So please welcome Alan. I want to make sure that you get a microphone here.
I'm not looking good to this, but I'll try.
Alan. Mic drop.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Thank
Tony.
you, Dominic.
Okay,
You got it?
there we go. Perfect. Awesome.
Wow. I've been, like I said, PAD for 17 years. I recently, after losing my legs or losing my leg, part of my foot, just wanted to keep fighting, moving on, because if I don't walk, I can't grow the collaterals to keep my legs and stay alive. So I was at physical therapy. I've been in physical therapy for about a year and a half. All of a sudden, I started getting tired. And I started noticing a little bit of chest pain. I was breathing, a little grabbing. And it was a weird chest pain, not normal chest pain. It was in my back. It came through, radiated the chest down my neck. And I had a local doctor. He did an angiogram. And it was about 3 weeks after the doctor, I was in the emergency room. I couldn't breathe. Test came back, no heart attack. No. And so they threw medication at me. It didn't help the pain. It didn't really do much. And about 3 weeks later, I had an angiogram. Came back, well, we're going to treat it with more medication. And I said, whoa, this is really affecting my ability to exercise. I don't like living this way. I'm popping nitros like they're gumballs. Take away my chest pain, especially at night. And my wife is saying there's nothing she can do. She's just worried that something's going to happen to me. And then I called Kim, not willing to accept this diagnosis that nothing can be done. And she called Dr. Doshi, who immediately called my new doctor, Dr. Elsayed Mohamed. And I was in his office that afternoon. Told him my symptoms. We created a story together with our questions back and forth. And he was able to honestly almost diagnose me right there because I know my body, I know the terminology, and we were able to create that highway back and forth with the connection. And that's where this great man helped save my life, I believe, because I think I was starting to head down a path of no return.
But it's just the important thing is that just as with your legs, just because someone has the title of a vascular specialist, it's the same thing with the heart, that just because they have the title of interventional cardiologist, it doesn't mean they have every skill that is needed for every single patient. But they will tell you that if they can't do it, nothing else can be done. They don't even think that maybe someone else might have a different set of skills or, you know, a little humility, right? I mean, maybe they have an ego and they just can't believe that someone else might be able to do it. So here's a patient, he's in the doctor's care. He says, well, what else do I have in my tool chest? Not thinking, what else does someone else have in their tool chest that might be different? And he said, I can't do anything, nothing can be done. Just go home, live your life the best you can, take some medicine and go home and die. I mean, isn't that what you felt?
Yeah, I felt with my body the way it is, if I don't exercise, it's over. Got to keep moving. Dr. Elsayed, who advanced, not even this year. Thank God I got through it very easily. We luckily, this other doctor didn't even test it. Testing what's called morphology. Is it soft plaque, hard plaque? And thank God I met very kind. He's very articulate. He showed me, and I heard things with my training with Kim that I knew I was getting a good job done. I heard him say the word, we've heard IVUS. I heard 3 or 4 times I need IVUS. He sized the stent, he sized the balloon, and I knew right then and there, this man had done a good job. And once again, one of my best friends saved my life, at least my quality of life, which is so big for me. And I want to start moving. I just now got through my PT doctor to go once a week to exercise for time like midpoint. It's big for me. So I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Wilson.
So the first thing I would say, thank you, Kim, because I think that what she does for everybody is just unspeakable. It's amazing in terms of how you help patients get better, empower them to really find the care they need. So thank you for doing that. Thank you for calling me. When I met Alan the first day, I mean, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but he was suffering. As you walked in, you kind of just had that suffering look on you. You were, in a way, in a place in your life where you did not. I talked to you. It's not that you've been patient for the first time. Alan, you've been a patient for a long time. And what I really appreciated is how knowledgeable you were about your condition. So you gave me details of everything you had done. I mean, I'm talking about very, very clear details. Which vessel, which bypass, when was it done, what was done, heart and leg. And I think without that, it would have been very difficult for me to figure out. That's why I could figure out right away. It's just because you really laid out a story. I literally sat down and just recorded from the first time you had a problem, and you just basically walked me through your life. And you asked all the right questions, but you also provided me with all the information I need. And I think that's a lesson. Because once you walk into your doctor, if you're able to provide that amount of information in detail, you are helping them make the right decision.
But the right details.
Yes, the right details, of course.
The pertinent ones for that situation. And that's something that we work, right?
Correct.
We in the group, when we're preparing you for your appointments, we talk about what is the right information that the doctor needs to know to make the decision of what to do with you in your health.
I was impressed with it. I was impressed with this level of detail.
That's what I talk about, advocating for yourself strongly. Because if you don't know the details of your condition, that doctor can't help you. You can be the best surgeon in the world, operating, and come with all the credentials in a woman, but without that, he can't do his job. And we all have a tendency to go into a doctor's office and many times our doctor and say, I trust you, it saved my life.
You have
Doc-
great reviews by Dr. Google.
Yes.
There's a lot.
So the other thing is, you know, what you gave me, you know, I was able to obviously look at the images that you brought me. There were some missing things in the link, but I was able to construct a picture to figure out where your problem is, and tell you where this is what you need. We can do it, and you want to decline. You know, it's not simple, but it's something we do all the time. If we can do it right away, and because we know exactly what we need, we had all the information, we were planning, everything is very quick. If you already know what's gonna happen, you know where it's going, how you're gonna target it, how you're gonna fix it, and you're done.
I went in I was on a Monday, or Tuesday
Tuesday probably.
afternoon, and he said, we're doing it tomorrow.
Yeah.
Hurry, call my wife, we're gonna spend the night.
Yeah. Well, I mean, honestly, your vessel was 99%. 95 minutes. Like, you couldn't sit on it for too long, right? So, like, I can't, like, you know, tell you, like, we're gonna do this, and, you know, we're talking about a,
He was
you know,
leaving on
urgent
vacation,
situation.
I felt bad, kind of being the last thing to take care of.
No, I couldn't go on vacation. It's not something that I could wait, right? So, and again, even if I had to be out of town, I would find you someone to do it. I wouldn't really need them because you couldn't be using that much nitroglycerin. Then it's just not right.
Yeah. But you know what was interesting is here with Chicago Vascular is the way that they put patients first. And the whole start of the story is he calls me and says, I feel like I'm dying. And I was like, yeah, not on my watch. We worked too hard.
Yeah,
He and I would confront you.
yeah, probably.
No, you're staying right here. And so you're staying right here, sorry. But I was able to get on the phone with Dr. Parag Doshi, who I've known for a long time as well. And, you know, he's a pioneer in CTOs, and you guys have been working together for a long time. And he called Dr. Doshi, and Dr. Doshi, you can come up here, Dr. Doshi. Dr. Doshi was where when I called you?
Kim called me as I was crossing the Arctic Circle.
I said, Dr. Doshi, what are you doing answering the phone at the Arctic Circle? And what did you say?
Well, I said, Kim, you're calling, somebody needs help, and I'm there.
How are you going to help him? No, and he said he immediately sent me, and I'm like, I can't believe that I know Dr. Elsayed.
Yeah.
But now you're on speed too. So I called him, and Dr. Doshi was like, oh no, I'm sure he's gonna get him in that day. I give a call to Dr. Elsayed, and he's like, can he drive over here now? Does he have some records? Alan literally drives over to the hospital, picks up his, demands it. He's like, no, I need this. My life's on the line. I need this CD of these images right now.
Everything.
Yeah. And he got on the road, and he drove 2 hours in traffic to come see Dr. Elsayed. Dr. Elsayed's like, I don't care. We're going to squeeze him in somehow. If he doesn't mind just waiting a little bit, we're going to get him in today. These are doctors that truly take their patients seriously. And especially when we call, I don't cry wolf.
You don't. But it's also the heart, the vascular. We're not in a field where we could sit and wait and tell people call and make an appointment in 6 weeks or 2 weeks or whatever. No, we can't. People can lose their lives or their limbs waiting.
Yep.
So we are always in a process of, yes, you need help. People, when they call in, there's a problem.
Yep.
I don't think people like to go to doctors in general. If they call in, you get.
I like seeing this guy. I like seeing him. He makes me feel good. Just knowing it's there. he cares about me. And I lost 10 doctors this year. And the lady has done my leg scans for the past 15. I have been rebuilding docs at my little arsenal for almost 6 to 8 months. It was amazing. Could anybody lose doctors within a 6-month period? Everybody tired, left. But this is how Kim's network works. Use it. That's what she is here for. She loves helping you. She cares about every one of you. She cares about the doctor too. And I would recommend either one of you anytime that you need.
Thank you.
This is where I'm coming now.
Yeah.
And now they're taking care of my legs.
Thank you so much for sharing your
Thanks.
story.
Report.
So
So what she's asking is, she wants to know, can doctors read across it? Are they all on this one software system, Epic? But, and you can correct me as well if I'm wrong, what we suggest, our guidance to our patients is every single time you have any sort of scan, I want you to immediately, before you even go in for the scan, I want you to say to the receptionist that I want a copy of this before I leave, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
one other thing is if you travel, take a set with you.
Exactly.
There's 2 in my car.
I also tell my patients, if you give me a CD, don't give me the original. Spend $5 and
Yeah.
one because we get so many CDs for second opinion, third opinion, and they, I might look at it at home, I might look at it in the hospital. So you should retain your original with you.
Would you rather have a CD or flash drive? Is actually
Restrictions. I just got, in general, CDs are older technology and USBs are better. But these, when they burn the CD or when they create it, it is not just the image files or pictures. There are complicated software applications. We call it DICOM, and there is also an application DICOM directory. What I found that when you try to transfer to USB, sometimes a couple of critical files don't come over. So unlike everything, in terms of this medical imaging, unfortunately, you still are better off getting a CD or DVD. Because I cannot tell you how many times somebody brings a flash drive and a couple of files are missing. And then I'm not able. Well, in the way they create the CD, everything visually has to be. It's a lot less likely to be covered.
The other thing is the flash drives sometimes have some like security things in them. It makes it harder. You put it in the computer, you can get it through the system. So CD will definitely work.
We had a situation actually. Anyone know Douglas, our friend Douglas?
Oh, yeah.
So Douglas was in a situation. He was getting ready to have an open heart procedure, and there was a hack that hacked the computer systems. And they said, we're going to have to not do this because we don't have any of your records or anything. And Douglas said, no,
My CD.
here's my CD. Here are all my records. Even while he was in the hospital, he made sure that every single test that was done, he was getting the CD, he was getting the records, and he was printing it out and having it right there next to his bed. So if anyone came in and asked, and how often do these hackers, get into these hospital systems? We're seeing it more and more. We just had another situation in Michigan where we ended up with a hacker getting into the computer systems. So because he actually had everything documented and had every CD in this folder, they were able to proceed with the procedure. So, which is fantastic.
No, legally they can.
So, you're balancing thing, to be very honest. If all my patients ask for CDs for all the tests, it would definitely create a harm. But where it's important is especially the angiograms. And if you are even thinking for sure, I say that getting a second opinion or going to a different hospital, the first thing, even in my office, ask for, that would be critical.
Well, I want to thank Alan so much for here, and Dr. Elsayed. You'll be back in a few moments. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Yes. We're going to introduce Dr. Parag Doshi. So really, it's all about the heart. And I know that so many people ask me all of the time, can you give us the education about our hearts just like you do our legs? Because you're not going to die from your legs, you're going to die from your heart. And there's still, how many of you out there in the audience actually have ever had your heart checked? Yep, you got a scan, but still not enough of you. Have you ever had a calcium score done? Okay. And he's going to go into, Dr. Doshi is going to go into a little bit more about the different scans that you need, because it's not just an ECG that is enough for you. It's not just them taking the stethoscope to your heart that is enough for you. You need to do so much more. It's not even the nuclear stress test or stress test that may be enough for you, because we had a patient who I cannot name, but who is suddenly missing from the group because he went in, got the nuclear stress test. They said, you're great, you're doing fine, your heart's healthy, go home. He died in the parking lot. Heart attack, massive heart attack. That was completely missed. And so Dr. Doshi, I want to introduce you with Chicago Vascular to not only talk about why that might be the case, but also to help you to advocate for yourself so that doesn't happen to you. Dr. Doshi.
Kim, thank you. So I'm Dr. Parag Doshi. I'm the founder and president of Chicago Cardiovascular Institute, and a wonderful team of doctors like Dr. Mohamed, and we have a whole team of doctors, and then we also started Chicago Vascular Clinic. I actually did work in another group, but what Kim just described is one of the reasons we started this with a passion that we should have the latest technology be started, and all doctors should have this. You should have the latest technology, but then at heart, you should be like a family doctor with that little black meat, with compassion, because you guys are the center of everything we do. We are your servants. Our job is to serve you. So we talk about heart disease. I've been doing this for 25 years, and yet this statistic I recently read and stopped me. You hear of patients dropping dead with a heart attack, right? 80% of them did not have any symptoms of problems with the heart 5 minutes before they died. You hear this all the time. So yes, there are people with bad heart and they pass away in their sleep or they have a heart attack. Such a large majority. So we have a lot of screening. I mean, women go for mammogram and we go for colonoscopy and we go for PSA. We have failed as a society, as a country, to create awareness and screening for heart disease. If you have PAD, 75 to 80% chances that you have heart blackmail. Even I, in fact, believe that none of my PAD patients should be treated without making sure that their heart is okay. So how do we screen? If I ask you, sir, what do you think would be the screening? How would you want to be, or any of the other, who had some of you say you are testing for the heart done, right? Who is a person who had screening for heart disease, but is not a heart patient? Any of you? What kind of testing did you have? So good. So what I believe for the good screening of a heart disease is not just one test. It's a lot of things together. The very first thing, let's say you walk in my office and then I have to make sure, or you're the patient. The very first thing is keeping a keen eye. What are your risk factors? You have something, your age, being a male, smoking, inactivity, obesity, or being overweight, diabetes, having PAD, having family history, or cholesterol, blood pressure. So I like to look at it. It doesn't mean that somebody who doesn't have a risk factor cannot have it. If you have a risk factors, I already am thinking that you are, you know, in somebody that I need to screen. Then I'm going to ask you questions, and this is very important. Overwhelming majority of the people say, I'm fine. Do you have shortness of breath? No, I don't have shortness of breath. Do you get tired? No. Most of us, what we do is we don't get short of breath or tired. You know why? Because we protect ourselves. We don't do it until we get tired. So I never ask my patient that I'm short of breath by getting tired. I always ask, how far can you walk before you get tired, right? Then we examine if you have whether there are the signs. We get the EKG. EKG, unfortunately, is only going to show if you really had problems, but in a large majority of patients, it may not show anything. All of you should at the minimum have something called a calcium score. So what calcium score means that if you have a plaque buildup in the front, the plaque is not just cholesterol. It has a lot of junk in it. And it's going through some inflammation and healing of plaque. And in that process, it affects calcium. There is no relation with your dietary calcium or blood calcium level. It is simply a marker of plaque. So there's a very simple CAT scan. Insurance doesn't pay for it. It's about $40, $50. We do it in like 5 minutes. If we put you under the CAT scan, there is no IV. And the CAT scanner specifically looks if there's a calcium deposit in your arteries. And it gives you a score, and the score can be 0. 0 means you don't have any calcium. That means chances of having plaque are very, very low. Sometimes you can have a fresh plaque with no calcium and 0 score. Otherwise, most often, especially as you get older, if you have a plaque, the calcium score may be positive, and it can be anywhere from 5 to 5,000. The more the plaque, the more the calcium. All of you must get it. Now, some of you, we also get stress test. Now, the problem with the stress test, especially in the older population or people with other issues such as back, that sometimes you are not even able to walk on the treadmill, so we do chemical stress test. Now, just what Kim described, chemical stress test also, or any type of stress, nuclear stress test, does have some limitation. There is a 20-30% chance that you can miss blockages, or it can be positive and then you don't have any. So it's not like a pregnancy test that it's yes or no, right? It's not like a COVID test. We actually do a different type of chemical stress test. American Society of Nuclear Cardiology actually recommends it. You've heard of people getting PET scan for cancer. So we actually have PET scanner dedicated for stress tests. Cardiology. American Society of Nuclear Cardiology said that's a #1 choice. The limitation of that test is that because it's so expensive, not many places. Very few hospitals in Chicago has, only Rush, I think, has it. We have it, it's not even most of the university hospitals also. They have it for cancer. They don't have it for. The advantage of that stress test, it is a lot more sensitive. It actually gives you not just the traditional stress test type of nuclear scan, but it also gives you calcium score with it, and it actually calculates how much blood is going to each part of the heart. So, and it gives lot less radiation. Yeah. So, another education that I give, that if you are getting a chemical stress test, ask the doctors whether you can get a PET, PET, just like, whether you can get a chemical stress test for using a PET scan. That's one thing that I would teach you guys. It is the standard of care. It's not as widely available, but most of the major cities should have some facilities. We are proud to have, right? Once we get that data, or sometimes we may do something called CT angiogram. CT angiogram is where we do a special CAT scan. This is not just a calcium score. Now we inject dye in the vein, and then once the dye goes to the heart, it actually gives you a 3D reconstruction. So you actually can see the blockages. The limitation of that is that sometimes if you have too much calcium in the artery, 10% blockage can look like 90% also, because the X-ray doesn't go through the calcium very well. So ultimate gold standard, and I'm not shy about recommending it somebody who has a high degree of suspicion, is going in and looking in an angiogram. When we actually go in your heart, just like the way you guys are familiar with the angiogram of the legs, we look in the heart also. The risk of procedure in well-trained, experienced doctors should be very, very low. Angiogram should be less than 1 in 1,000 chance of major complication, right? But your doctor should have experience. My partner, Dr. Mohamed, and we have done thousands of them. He takes care of my family, right? So that's a level of trust you should have in your doctor. The key thing is, not only PAD is risk for your wounds or losing the limb. The PAD is also pointing it towards the risk of heart disease and stroke. So I tend to think of any of you guys have a low threshold for making your heart check in a more advanced fashion. Just getting somebody might have had an EKG, somebody might have had, oh, no, he listened to me and he said it's fine, or he got an echo. Don't be satisfied. Because especially if you have arthritis, if you have, even without anything, but especially with arthritis or vascular disease, you're not likely to stimulate your heart enough to get symptoms, right? So that's a problem. If you got a PAD and if you had, or neuropathy, you get arthritis, you are going to be tired and you'll stop because of that. So you'll say, oh no, I get tired. I'm not sure of breath. I don't have chest pain. In fact, chest pain, even the doctors, 95% doctors, they equate chest pain. I was one of the investigators in a major trial in terms we did for the completely 100% blocked artery. We found very, very few patients with a completely blocked arteries. I'm talking about 100% blockage in the heart have chest pain. They just feel tired, or they are short of breath, or they feel fatigued. Just don't have energy. No, I don't want to do it. So much so that the American College of Cardiology Journal had an editorial. Should fatigue be called the new engine? Do not depend on, oh no, I don't just make definitely fine. We had one lady who was saying that I just don't have energy, I don't want to walk. And the first thing I said, you need to get your heart checked. Just because you had a bypass doesn't mean the bypass will get blocked again, right? Think of PAD or heart or stroke as a holistic system disease. These are diseases of blood vessel. Same steak that you ate, or same cigarette you smoked, or same remote control that you held in your hand for 8 hours and not move. Those problems everywhere, right? Clear? So I would entertain as many questions as you have. By the way, when you buy new shoes, pair of new shoes, or I put a stent in your body, right? I always say that if you buy a new pair of shoes, treat your shoes like your dog. Do you know what it means? Take it walking for a mile or so. I always tell my patients, when I put a stent, this stent, treat it like a dog. Take it to walk every day. Otherwise, it won't be.
That I know of, but I have a family history of it. So how do I get my family doctor to order the tests you just suggested to make sure that I don't have a heart issue that's brewing?
So you just once again raised my most favorite, and I mean something that I'm so passionate about, because so many of you have been told, no, you're fine, don't do anything, your cholesterol is fine, let it be. And then meanwhile, your arteries are marinating in that plaque and you're building up. So the good news about what's bad about that calcium score is also good. Calcium score is not paid for by any insurance. Any of you can probably call up local hospital. For example, we actually offer in our own place, Chicago Cardiology, that I want to get a calcium scan of my arteries. $45, $50, and you can do it yourself. You don't need a doctor's prescription. You see?
So I could do it
And then
here.
the other thing, I will just give one extra piece of advice on. So calcium score is not, it doesn't tell you how much blockage you have, right? So it is what we call statistical odds. What are the odds? So if your score is 0, with chances of you having plaque are not 0, very close. But we do have some patients where a plaque was fresh, so it didn't have chance to accumulate calcium. So you can have blockage occasionally. It's uncommon, but it's still the same thing. When you get the plaque, they'll tell you that if your score is 0 to 100, your chance, that means low risk of high severe blockage, 100 to 400 moderate. The problem is the primary doctors and many cardiologists treat it like, oh, your score is 50, don't worry, you're fine. No, your score is 50 means you got a plaque. Look further, treat your cholesterol, treat your blood pressure, and do more, right? This is odd. Just because the chances are less that you need a bypass with a score of 50 doesn't mean that occasionally you do. So that's another lesson. Absolutely.
That's from my experience. Is I don't take care of this, the rest doesn't happen. So you have to.
Yeah.
It's a must.
You must, and that also you brought up as not only that you have to tell a family doctor. The other thing I also see, both doctors in new patients, there is a massive resistance about taking cholesterol medicines and treating blood. There is so much garbage on the internet about statins. There is so much about, oh no, I want the holistic way. I want the natural way. I want this way. Even a borderline increase in blood pressure increases your risk of heart attack and stroke by 30 to 40%. In the same way, even a 5-10 point reduction in the blood pressure dramatically lowers your risk of heart attack and stroke. Same thing is for cholesterol. Don't take borderline elevated cholesterol as normal. There is nothing like a normal cholesterol, to be honest. It's how low can you get? It all depends on the risk factors. So don't resist doctor's attempt to start blood pressure cholesterol medication. In fact, tell the doctor that I want my blood pressure in normal range. Recommendation is currently below 130 or 80. And I want my cholesterol perfect. Don't take any chances because these are silent killers, right? But there is a huge resistance in patients and doctors.
And one of the things, and you bring up a really important point in terms of, when it comes to cholesterol, and I'm curious your thoughts, I've never talked to you about this, but one of the things that I learned when my dad was on the verge of a heart attack was that there is a difference between a basic lipid panel and an advanced lipid panel for cholesterol. And my dad's primary care doctor refused to believe that he might be at risk of a heart attack because she said his cholesterol was normal. And she told me that she would not order an ECG or a stress test because of that. His cholesterol normal. And I said, well, do you realize that more than 40% of people who suffer a heart attack have normal cholesterol in a basic lipid panel? It's not until you actually have an advanced lipid panel where you can actually understand the quality. You could have a whole bunch of large, fluffy LDL particles and you'd be fine, right? But it's those small, dense LDL particles that when they become oxidized by trans fats and free radicals, that those can eke into damaged areas of your blood vessel and push it on out. And so it's really important to ask for an advanced lipid panel, I think.
So I think, I would modify it just slightly. So you raised a great point. So when you order a total cholesterol panel, so you get 4 or 5 values. You get total cholesterol, and quite honestly, I don't pay as much attention to total cholesterol anymore because to me, it's really the components. Then there is a component called LDL or low density lipoprotein. We call it bad cholesterol, and we call it another one is called HDL or high density cholesterol. Why is it one is bad and one is a good? So it's not fair. So think of LDL and HDL as like dump trucks. They're basically garbage trucks. So LDL, lousy one, the low density cholesterol, it's a garbage truck that picks up fat from the liver and then it dumps it in your arteries. That's why it's a bad one. Well, HDL or health, it's a high density, but you can remember it as a healthy, right? It's a good one. So HDL picks up plaque, picks up fat from your arteries, from your plaque, and takes it to the liver where it's broken. You understand why it's good. And there is also VLDL or very low density cholesterol that comes from the food you eat. And there is a pure fat, which is triglycerides. Now, what I do is like, if I have somebody with a high cholesterol fat, where I'm going to put them on statin, and I know that I need to bring their bad cholesterol, all of you, if you have bad or if you have heart disease, I lower your LDL or bad cholesterol below 55 based on the current need. So in that case, I don't necessarily order fractional because I'm already going to treat them to the max. Any of you, or especially my patient, if they have, but the cholesterol is normal, but the patient has a family history, even if they don't have heart disease, or if they have any risk, I order this advanced lipid panel. It is called, some facilities called nuclear magnetic resonance or NMR panel, sometimes local fractionation. What it means and what just Kim explained, that all these particles, low density lipoprotein and high density lipoprotein, they can come in different sizes. And then, so what this panel tells you is what is the size distribution of this good cholesterol and bad cholesterol particles and how many. And then depending on what your doctor adds, there may be some additional test in it called apolipoprotein B, which is ApoB is actually one of the really, I can make it very complicated, but it is really the reason why we get heart attacks. And then also another oft forgotten but extremely important type of test, which is called apolipoprotein A. Lipoprotein A is especially LPA, is especially a big risk factor in South Asia, but it is for anyone. An American College of Cardiology says it should be checked for everyone at least once. And we will have specific medications for that in a year or so. So you are completely right. So in other words, if you are going to be aggressively treated, then I think, especially I may or may not order. But for sure, no, your cholesterol normal in your dad would have been a classic reason for anyone to order it.
So an interesting question that we've gotten a couple of times is, so what's the purpose of the LDL particles? If they're just dump trucks, then why do we have them? Do they have any good?
Well, so I get this, and then we are struggling to find the right answer, right? So there is some cholesterol in the cellular wall of the blood cells, right? So there is always this thing that, oh no, if you lower too much, and this is classic, you can find some online stuff and this holistic doctor, they will try to do that. Oh no, if you lower cholesterol, it would be very bad for you. You make a dementia, you make this, and then none of that has been proven. So there is no question that there is some function of it. But we don't know. So far, every trial where we have lowered it to the lowest level, we have had some incremental benefit. So LDL, there is the data that if you lower it below 40, there may be more beneficial than below 55 also. So we don't know how low is too low yet. That's all I can say.
And there is safety data to, even if you bring it down to in the 20s, we have very good data, safety data that there was nothing happened to those patients with very comprehensive testing and all of that stuff. So, and if you take a newborn, they usually have an LDL in their 20 to 30. You take mammals that are hanging around and just in the wildlife, they're about the same. So I think that our LDL is high because of our lifestyle, genetics, and everything else. And those numbers that are on the chart when you get the blood test are completely artificial. So an LDL of 120 is not normal.
Oh my
in animals. So I think it's just artificial. We don't go by it.
So great question. So we are, first of all, at any given day, doctors believe that this is the golden age of medicine. So, but at the risk of being wrong, right? We don't know what's in the future. We are in the golden age of cholesterol management. So, first thing for the managing cholesterol comes at home, avoiding unhealthy food. I'm a huge believer in plant-based food. I'm a vegan, right? Avoiding ultra-processed food, eating more whole grain fruits and vegetables, exercising to the best of your ability, or of exercising to the extent you didn't know was possible. So that's at home. Then comes in the office. In the office, currently, the standard of care is statins. And the statins also come in 2-3 generations. I mean, I rarely use the first generation, second generation, lovastatin, or occasionally we use pravastatin, but then more the high intensity statins, like atorvastatin or rosuvastatin. They are shown to improve your outcomes. Now, if that does not, if that statin at the maximum dose, maximum tolerated dose, does not knock out your LDL to the lowest, then the next step is adding a medication called ezetimibe, which is not a statin, but it adds to the effect of statin. If that does not do the job, then the next step is the injectable medicine, which you give yourself injection once every 2 to 4 weeks. Repatha, Praluent, those two. And they work very well with statins, and they should be able to. In case if your insurance does not approve, or if you are one of the rare ones that does not work, there are other options. So first of all, orally, there is a drug called bempedoic acid. It's called Nexletol. It is not actually very as strong as statin. So it's typically used for statin intolerant. But if your cholesterol, if you cannot tolerate it, if you didn't get the way down with the Praluent, so there is a new drug called Laqueo. You actually have to, it's still a 1 injection per year to do it in doctor's office or infusion center, just because that's the insurance pick, once every 6 months. So there are so many options. And this is just the beginning. Now we are actually working. There's a new exciting data that you literally take a medication RNA base, and you modify the gene that makes it, and then you can pretty much get a 1 shot and maybe have medication every 5-10 years. But that's in the investigation phase. They already presented data about a pressure injection. A lot of you might have heard of ACE inhibitors called angiotensin receptor inhibitors. We use them all the time. They presented with data called zilebesiran, that you get 1 shot and it knocks out the gene that makes the angiotensin, and the blood pressure stays down with the injection every for 6 months. Yeah. So you might be looking at a future for blood pressure, cholesterol. You just give yourself a shot once every 6 to 12 months, and you're.
See, this is amazing. This is stuff you can't find out there, and it's through amazing doctors like Dr. Doshi that takes the time like this to be able to help us to educate you, on things that you may not be able to hear from even your local doctors, but can give you hope that there's something more out there, and that so many people are innovating around this and really trying to help us hopefully at some point find it. So thank you so.
I heard about it.
You had myomectomy, hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, is it?
Yeah, apical hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. Apical.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Now, myomectomy and blockage are 2 separate things. So myomectomy is a disease. So he's referring to a disease called hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, where the muscle has some genetic abnormality and it starts growing inappropriately. You literally have to cut out the muscle. And there are new medications for hypertrophic cardiomyopathy also for some patients who don't tolerate or who need it. But now, if you're having TIA, you have to be screened for irregular heart rhythm, called fibrillation. And number 2, that in case if that part of the heart is developing any blood clot, but the TIA should not be occurring just because of the myomectomy. So that something needs to be looked at for it.
Yeah.
Have you ever been
screened
screened for
in this area,
fibrillation?
in the Houston area? Would
Oh,
be very great.
That's for atrial fibrillation.
But thank you so much, Dr. Doshi. We really appreciate your time, and we want to bring in Dr. Elsayed. He is going to be talking about more tests. This is our final presentation of the day. We appreciate everyone being here. We're learning a lot, but I wanted to. I think it's really important, if you do have some time to say, we want to make sure to let Dr. Elsayed have the floor, because he has some really important things he wants to share with you as well. about getting tested and some other tools that are out there that you might want to make sure that your doctor is using.
So I just want to follow up with you. One of the things you need to look at is atrial fibrillation. You probably see it on TV a lot. That could be something that could cause you TIAs, and it can be very intrusive because it doesn't necessarily doesn't have to be present all the time. It's an irregular rhythm that can, come and go, and you may not feel it, so it can be undetected. It happens commonly in people with hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. It can happen in those individuals. So you do have atrial fibrillation. Yeah, so that could be the source of those TIAs if there are TIAs. If you don't have atrial fibrillation, if you notice, some of these, the theme is not every test has a limitation. So the way we diagnose atrial fibrillation is most people do an EKG. But again, when you do an EKG, it's a 10-second snapshot in a condition that can come and go. So when you take a 10-second snapshot out of an entire year, what are the chances of us detecting something, right? Yeah. So there are technologies that are available, that are monitors that are very, very small, almost the size of 2 matchsticks that are inserted under your skin in your chest, and they give you 24/7 monitoring of your heart rhythm, and they can work for about 3 years. So if individuals who have TIAs and we suspect that they may be having undiagnosed atrial fibrillation, especially people who have risk factors for atrial fibrillation, we recommend those because chances are, if you don't have AFib in 3 years, then you don't have it, right? So, but this is the best chance of detecting it. And the reason why it's important to detect it is you have to treat it differently. Certain medications, blood thinners that we have to use to reduce the risk of stroke. And AFib is one of the most common risks of stroke in individuals over age 60. So that's one thing to look into if you're having TIA. Physiology. Yeah, yeah. So I mean, that's the problem with AFib. It is a very common cause of stroke, but also it can go undetected. You don't feel it, and unless someone feels you're having a regular pulse or you have an EKG and you happen to have AFib at that time, chances are we won't detect it. So unfortunately, it's one of those risks of stroke that can be out in the community and not being determined. There's absolutely no way you detect it. I mean, you have to be lucky to get it on an EKG, so you have to have a monitor. And monitors come in different varieties. You could have them in 2 days, you could have it for 2 weeks, 1 month, but your best shot of detecting it in this day and age in 2024 is we have this technology. You put it in, sits there for, huh? Yeah, that's the one that's a patch, right? Put on, yes. So what I'm talking about is an injectable. It's actually under your skin. It's not even visible outside with the anesthesia. They do cover it, yes, if you have the right indication and it's documented properly that we're suspecting AFib, yes, they do cover it. Yeah. And I think Kim wanted me to talk about, in general, the information and tools that are sometimes used to help legs move on. And I want to circle back. I think there was a point I wanted to make earlier. I know you one day, I don't recall your name. Frank, yeah. So remember they asked, how long would it take before they diagnosed a PAD for you, and you said it was right away. Correct. immediately, right? Yeah. But I want you to take yourself back a little bit and say, did you develop a PAD at that time? So this has been growing for years, right? So you will only detect it after you got to a point where you needed an urgent surgery. So what I wanted to emphasize is that you were diagnosed at the time. If you think of it, like I think that the theme here should be detecting and diagnosing these really conditions that are life altering or life ending before they're cause a problem. So that here's where you know, this is where your primary care should be. Go to the doctor, you get seen, you get your risk factors checked, pulse examination. You know, if there's a question, you can get simple tests like an ABI, you know, a PADnet, something to diagnose whether or not you have PAD. And then point zero here, you get diagnosed, you know, year later, 2 years later, you get put on the right regimen, the right medications, the right, you know, exercise and all of that stuff. And we have avoided point. You know, you got diagnosed that you had drop foot and you needed surgery, right? So what we want to do is we want to get people to get diagnosed earlier so that we prevent the complication related. Correct. Yes. So you don't want to diagnose PAD after you had anything, not even claudication, honestly. Because if you diagnose it early, you treat it, you remove the risk factors, and you prevent the development of symptoms. The same way with disease. So that's why we talked about the calcium score and screening. Unfortunately, we are doing a terrible job in here, you know, in terms of finding these things before there's a problem. And that's really where it comes down to looking. And looking can be simple, you know, ABI, you know, could be a pulse exam, could be a calcium score, you know, really looking under the hood whether there's evidence of silent condition that is going to lead to a problem later on. So that's that. And then if you have a problem, then I think the right diagnostic test is where you're gonna get the right treatment. So obviously, there are some things that are gonna be mandated. There's always gonna be some medicines. You have to treat your cholesterol. You have to walk. You have to manage all of your risk factors. But then if you are heading towards an evaluation or a procedure, there are tools to allow us, first of all, know what you have before we start a procedure. So planning is key. So if, for example, if you are looking at peripheral arterial disease, right? So there are tools to get an idea of what's going on before we go in for that angiogram, right? So we are looking at, you know, you can get a comprehensive duplex exam, which is an ultrasound that with imaging flow. You can detect where the blockages are, how extensive they are, if there are collateral circulations, where is the problem. So you have the doctor has an idea of what they to expect. We also, go ahead.
You had early. So if you have no symptoms and you have a family history of PAD, when when should you get checked?
Okay. So there are levels of things you can do to get, right? So first thing is just a general pulse examination. Like when you go to the doctor, you take your shoes off, they examine your pulses, and if you have the normal pulse exam, you can check catheter refill, you can check the feet and understand if there's an infusion or not. Now, Beyond that, you could do as like a basic uh, ankle brachial index, which is done, in the doctor's office. And then, or next level, you could do an ankle brachial index, but with PVRs and waveforms to get a little bit more extensive evaluation. The individuals to get those are individuals with risk factors at a certain age. So usually we say anybody over age 50 who has history of smoking, history of diabetes, family history of PVD, history of very high cholesterol levels, familial kind, history of heart disease, blockages or evidence of atherosclerosis anywhere, cirrhotics, heart, anywhere else, then those should be screened. Any individual over age 70 should be screened regardless of their risk, because age is really one of the most important risk factors for having atherosclerosis. Smoking, diabetes, risk factors, family history, or existing atherosclerosis anywhere else in the body over age 50, you should get screened. All right. So the next level after we do a duplex is something called a CT angiogram, and that is a CAT scan, an angiogram done through a CT scan, not necessarily by catheter. It's done just an IV with contrast. Are you guys familiar with a CAT scan is? CT angiogram is? That gives us even more information and exactly a roadmap of what's happening in your arterial circulation. And I use that for multiple reasons, because we can really plan the procedure that way, especially in individuals who have had advanced PAD, right? So you want to know if, for example, if the problem is in the right leg, which way can we access safely, and what is the best access point? Is it the left leg? Is it the same right leg down? Is it from the radial down? Is it from the brachial down? So it gives us an idea of how we are going to do the angiogram to begin with safely, right? So instead of going in and just guessing and poking arteries and see if everything goes well, I think we have an idea of what everything is. Number two, there are some areas that are hidden. You can't see them with an ultrasound. Inside the pelvis, ultrasound cannot see the vessels, the iliac arteries well, because they're enclosed in the pelvic area. So it's very hard to see what's in there. And there are always there are areas where you could hide blockages that are cannot be detected otherwise. So people can have symptoms, and they look at their legs and they say, "Oh, you looks like we did an ultrasound. Everything looks here, but I have symptoms." So they forget to look at the source, which would be aorta and the iliac. So understanding the pulse of the aorta and the artery is important, also for what you're going to do during the procedure. And then understanding how much calcification. So calcium makes everything very hard and rigid. So calcium is what makes bones. And if you imagine some of these vessels that you probably heard the old term hardening of the arteries. So that's what the calcium is doing to those arteries. And vessels are calcified, require certain treatment options to try to help modify that so we can expand the blockage and open the arteries, especially with that heavily calcified lesions. And then you want to know the road, so you can expect and you can tell the patient ahead of time, like, and you have a multi-level occlusion where occasionally we would say, this is going to be more than 1 second, realistically. We would open, from here to here today, let this settle down, and we're going to go to tackle the next levels. And that may be, we're going to access from below, up, or we're going to access. So instead of keeping someone in for hours and hours and hours in the procedure, risking some issues, we can stage this into procedure. And that gives us as operators time to plan, right? If you walk into an angiogram, I don't know what's going on in your legs. I take an angiogram, then I have to make a decision at that moment in time. How am I going to tackle this and treat it in the sequence of it, right? Imagine if I had a CT scan and I had time in my office to think about it, plan it ahead of time, and know the sequence of things, and tell you what is the sequence of events should be. And I had a patient yesterday, for example, that I counseled in the office, and I said, you know, we are going to do this to do 3 sessions because he had blockages in difficult areas that I have to fix one to get to the second to get to the third, and they have to go in a certain sequence. And but if I didn't have that information before, you know, from a CT, I would do the angiogram, I would stop, and then come back and tell them, well, it's turned out to be like that, and we have to do this and that. But I think it's better to know ahead of time. The other thing is sizing of vessels, especially in the iliac artery. I can take on the CT scan exactly what's the size of the stent that's needed, how long, diameter, and length, and if there are any other branches around it, and what kind of stents I can use, a regular stent or a covered stent. And so I am able to plan this. So I literally walk in the procedure, I say, we're going to do this, we're going to need that, we're going to need this, we're going to need that. And he walks in, and there's no guesswork about what size it's going to be, and is it going to be too big or too small. Now, this is all before coming into the procedure. So I like to know right there before we walk in, we're going to access from here, left groin, we're going to go around there, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. That's kind of that plan. Now, in the procedure, then you need other devices to help you plan. Now, this is not devices to treat. These are devices to decide how to treat. Okay? So the other thing we look at is using what we call intravascular ultrasound, or IVUS. Plaques come in different ways. You have a soft plaque that is full of fat. You have a fibrotic plaque that is rigid, but it's not, you know, not as hard as a calcium. You have calcified plaque that is full of calcium and as rigid as a bone. And then you could clot as well. And that these are all things that are important to know about, because what you do for clot is different than what you do for calcium, and different than what you do for C-spine, is different than what you do for fibrotic. And sometimes if you use a device that it works really well for calcium, but the patient has clot, you are actually going to make the situation worse, because you are going to spin in the clot and essentially embolize it down. And this would be hours of trying to fix clot down. So knowing what's in there is important. But if you don't know, like if you do the angiograms and you have equipoise about what size the vessel is, what kind of plaque I'm dealing with, it looks a little hazy. Is there a clot? There's no clot. Is there a dissection? I don't know. Are you guys familiar what the term dissection is? Section is basically the 3 layers of the artery. 3 layers. The inner layer is kind of split, and it splits from the wall of the artery. So you have like a little flap inside the artery. So is there a dissection? Some people can have a spontaneous dissection next to plaque. So understanding all of it is important, because then there are certain devices that you can't use. If there's a dissection, they will better use certain other different devices. So if there's a question on the angiogram, on the morphology of the plaque, the size of the vessel, the presence of clot, the presence of a dissection, then use the tools to find out what exactly is going on, so you can tailor the treatment in a way. Go ahead. Yes. So yes, so CT angiogram can detect clot. Depends on the age of the clot. So initially, the clot, when it's fresh, it has a different texture and color to it, really dark. But when the clot has been there for a while and it's embedded, it becomes more like the same texture and color scheme as the vessel wall. So you may be able, you may not be able to detect the differences, but fresh clot, you should be able to detect on a CT angiogram. And those obviously you're going to treat them differently. Because clot, you have to manage. Your goal is to get that out and not send it down. So that's the really key. And there are devices to do that, to reuse it. It depends on the amount of clot and what you expect you can achieve. Sometimes we drip, we really put a catheter in it, drip TPA in there for a few hours and come back and read. And sometimes we can do something to get it out right away. So it depends on how much and what's the risk of something going. Or alien. Okay. Yeah. So the best thing is not to have anything.
So he's asking, is it better to have soft plaque or hard plaque? And you're saying
the best thing is zero.
zero plaque.
Each one brings its own challenges. So the issue with very hard plaque in the iliac is hard plaque is like you can imagine you have a rock. Like sometimes it's actually just shaped like a rock on the vessel wall. Now, unfortunately, this still happens, but thankfully, I mean, we have designed it in a way we evaluate and treat that. I'm gonna knock on wood that I haven't seen this in a very long time. Is something called an iliac perforation. So you go in, you open the vessel with a balloon. You have on the wall something like this. Yeah, now you're pushing it with a balloon, and it just tears through the wall. Iliac perforation can be. So you have open bleeding inside the pelvis, and the pelvis can take a lot of blood. So that's one thing. So the reason why we don't see this now is that we plan. So we do CT. I can tell you on the CT how much calcium is it, what's the size of the iliac artery and the location. So I can tell, I look at it and say, okay, this is a chunk of calcium that could be a problem. So, and this is the size of the vessel. So the key is to preventing perforation is you have to manage the calcium. And you have to make sure you're not super oversized on the balloon stents. And you have to put a cover stent. So we go in, was that plan? So we go in, we use something called a shock wave. So that's a special kind of balloon that uses shock wave. So imagine people that have kidney stones and they do the shock wave therapy, the lithotripsy. So they put them in water, they shock, and it breaks the stone. So you take one rock and you can smash it with a shock wave and you break it into 10 pieces. So when you break a rock into 10 pieces, then you can smush them together easier. If you break a rock into 20 pieces, you can smush them you can smush them easy. They will not go down because all of that is inside the vessel wall. So it's covered on each side. So people say, oh, isn't that going to shower down? No, it's not going to shower down. If the rock is broken apart inside the vessel wall, so nothing is in the bloodstream. So usually we come in, we have the right side shock wave, we use the shocks to soften the calcium, and then we go in with a balloon very gently and slowly and deliberately and monitoring blood pressure, monitoring patients for symptoms, and then we come in and my practice has been to put for those cover stents. Cover stents in the iliacs work really well. They have very low, a very high patency rate, very low. You cannot grow plaque in cover stent. That's number one. Number two is they make the procedure much safer because there's no way you're not gonna bleed because it's covered, so it's creating a seal. There's no perforation. So using those steps, I would say I've not seen an iliac perforation. So that's the now soft plaque. You have to be careful. Is it soft? Is there any clot in it or no? Some of it can be cheesy craters. Cheesy kind of plaque. You put a stent in it, it can kind of through to the stent struts. So there's certain situations where sometimes I put a cover stent, but I just want to make sure I don't get a cheese created into a brain. So sometimes you have to protect the branches. And so you have to each one has a little bit of different strategies. So you just want to make sure that you use the right strategy for the right.
Let's have a big round of applause for
Yeah.
Dr. Elsayed. Thank you
Alright.
so much for being here. And I want to just give you guys and just applaud you guys for being here and for taking the time to learn something new and taking your health into your own hands, because I think it's amazing. And as Dr. Elsayed said earlier, like, he's never had patients that come in like Alan came in with the well-informed questions. And so that's because you guys are taking the time to learn something new, to learn something different, but then not only that, helping to spread the word in our network. So, you know, you see questions out there, things that you're learning here, please continue to share. It's really important. So thank you so much. And thank you to everyone online. A big thank you to Chicago Vascular for hosting us. Amazing, amazing, Juliana.
Please,
Thank
can
you
you guys
so
come?
much. Yeah,
Thank you.
come up here. We just want to thank Emila and Juliana. We really appreciate them setting this all up for us, especially so last minute. A big thank you to Hal with Surmodics. We really appreciate you being here and hosting our lunch and everything else. Thank you so much from the bottom of our hearts for that. And also a big thank you and a shout out to Biomedix for taking so much time to do ABI testing. If you didn't have it done, let's talk. We're going to try and work on getting you into your doctor to get one done soonest. But also a thank you to our YouTube producer, Josh, for all your help. And thank you to everyone. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your weekend, everyone.
Thank you, guys.